"Strip, now." My own mother screamed the order, and when I looked at Dean standing right there, I just asked her, "You want me to strip in front of him?" Her answer was a slap across my face. That single blow was proof. She was choosing a monster over me. My name is Mia, and I am an 18-year-old girl who was desperately trying to escape a monster my mother loved more than me. Everyone called her a loving mother, but they didn't know the truth about the man she protected, a secret that made her love feel like a cruel joke. If you are hearing my story, it is no longer just mine. It belongs to us now. If any part of it made you feel seen, I beg you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe so I know my story reached you. And tell me in the comments, which part of the world did my story reach you? Let me know where this journey has taken us. Thank you. This nightmare didn't start with a slap, though. It started quiet, like a bad whisper. I can still remember the night it all started, right at our small dinner table. Mom announced the business trip to us during dinner, and my stomach just froze up. I knew in that second what was coming. It meant I would lose the one barrier I had left, that small comfort I felt whenever I locked my bedroom door at night. That heavy, stale smell of Dean's cheap cologne was everywhere, even though he was just sitting there, smiling and acting innocent. I just lost it right there. I started begging Mom, my voice loud, telling her she couldn't leave me behind only with him. I shouted that I wasn't going to school anyway, that I could stay in the hotel room and not disturb her. But she just looked at me, completely annoyed, and said that one phrase that always broke me. "Are you a child? You're 18. She said I should stop wrapping myself around her like an apron. Then she told me to just get out. She didn't see my fear. She only saw the pressure to be the good daughter who accepts her new stepfather. I went to my room and cried, but I didn't stop Mom from going. Soon after, I heard the front door close, and then I heard the sound of her taxi pulling away. That was it. I was alone with him. I rushed to my room and made sure the bedroom door was properly locked. It was just a thin wooden door, but it was all I had left to protect myself. I sat on the floor, shaking. It didn't take long. I heard his footsteps coming down the hall, then he was right there. He started knocking, then demanding that I open up the door right now. My heart was beating so fast, I thought it would just burst out of my chest. I just sat silent, praying he would go away. He started banging on the bedroom door then. "Are you going to open the door or should I break it down?" he shouted. He kept yelling for me to open it. He even tried to sound sweet, calling me sweetheart and baby, but I knew the truth. When I didn't move, he started counting, threatening to bring the door down at the count of 5. I couldn't let him break the door. That would just cause bigger trouble with Mom. I felt every bit of hope just drain away. I gave up. I was so defeated. I slowly turned the lock and opened the door. The moment I pulled the bedroom door open, his sweet voice disappeared. His face was tight with anger. You could feel the rage coming off him. "You know what you just did?" he fumed. He said I kept him outside for so long and promised me I would be punished if I ever did it again. All I could smell was the awful, stale smell of his cheap cologne as he stepped closer. I just stood there, completely helpless. He didn't even wait for me to beg. He just jumped straight to the worst part. "Please don't do this," I whispered, but he didn't even hear me. He just looked at me with those cold eyes and gave the order, "Take your clothes off now." I felt like I couldn't breathe, like the air had just left the room. He repeated it, shouting, "I said, take it off." In that moment, the bedroom door behind me felt like a joke. All the locking and begging hadn't helped anything. The whole house felt like a trap my mother had walked out of. I tried to beg him again, but I was just crying. I don't even remember when I slept that night, or if I slept at all. The next morning, I woke up and my whole body was just aching, but I still had to go to the kitchen to cook breakfast. I wanted to be fast, just finish the cooking and go hide again, maybe behind my locked bedroom door. I was at the stove when he came up behind me. I jolted so hard I almost dropped the spoon. He was there again, and all I could think was how I still hadn't washed away that awful, stale smell of his cheap cologne. "My baby," he said, his voice low in my ear, and that sound just startled me out of my thoughts. I told him, "Please, I'm cooking," trying to keep my voice steady, but he just moved closer. He asked me what meal could be sweeter than the one standing right there in front of him. I told him my body was hurting badly, trying to make him stop, but he only laughed and said I brought this on myself. He started saying terrible things about how beautiful my body was, and it made me sick to my stomach. He just told me to hurry up with the cooking because he didn't know which one to start with first. Later that day, I was sitting alone, feeling trapped, and I knew I had to talk to someone. I called my friend Chloe. I told her everything that was going on, the whole mess. I told her how scared I was and how I just wanted to stop him from touching me. I was praying that Chloe would give me some great idea, maybe a secret plan or a new way to use my locked bedroom door to keep him out for good. I needed real help, not just a sympathetic ear, because the pressure of being the good daughter was crushing me. I waited for Chloe to tell me what to do, for her to tell me how to fight back. Instead, she asked why I wasn't just collecting money in exchange. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She said whether I liked it or not, he would still have his way, so why not get something back? She explained that Mom would never believe me. Chloe said she tried telling her own mom many times, and it only made things worse. She told me she just collects the money and moves on. That felt like the worst possible thing. I was so angry and hurt, I asked her if that wasn't the absolute worst thing you could do, but she kept insisting that this was just how it was. She said I already had to deal with the pain, so why should I also lose everything else? She told me I was supposed to be her friend, but I felt so betrayed by her advice. I told her I needed a way to stop the problem, but she was just telling me to keep going with it. I couldn't believe I was hearing her say I should sleep with the same man my mother was marrying. It was already happening, but I couldn't just accept it for money. I was almost screaming at her on the phone. I told Chloe that wasn't the advice I wanted. I needed encouragement to find a way to stop this nightmare, not reasons to keep doing it. She just turned it back on me, saying if I knew a way to stop it, I should go and help her too. Chloe said these stepfathers don't care if we survive or die. She said a little selfishness wouldn't hurt. I disagreed immediately. I told her nobody was going to think about me, so I had to think about myself. This whole situation was just wrong. I knew I couldn't trade my body just because I was under the constant weight of expectation to be quiet. I finally hung up on Chloe, feeling worse than before. I was standing there, still smelling that horrible, stale smell of Dean's cheap cologne on myself, when someone knocked on the front door. It was Aunt Tara, Mom's friend. Mom had told her about the trip, so she decided to come check on me. The minute I saw her, a huge rush of safety just washed over me. I was so excited. I felt like crying again, but this time it was from relief. Seeing her there, I thought, maybe she's the answer. She was the only one who could get me away from Dean.
I rushed to Aunt Tara, telling her how happy I was she came. I couldn't let her leave. I started begging her to spend the night, quickly, before Dean could say anything. I insisted, saying I thought she was going to stay. Dean was right there, watching us, but I didn't care. With her here, Maybe I wouldn't have to keep rushing to lock my bedroom door tonight. My one thought was, if she stays, he won't try anything, and I can finally breathe without smelling that awful stale smell of his cheap cologne. I just had to get her to stay. Dean finally broke in. He was sharp and angry. He cut into my begging, telling me to stop right there. "Stop insisting. Don't put people under pressure," he said, and he was frowning at me. I tried to argue back, saying she was my auntie and I was the one talking to her. But he just warned me not to be rude. I saw the look on Aunt Tiara's face, though. She saw how annoyed he was. But she said it was fine, and then she looked at me and said, "Yes, I'll stay." I cheered so loud. Dean just muttered something under his breath. I knew I had won that small battle against him. Dean went quiet after that, but he was still thinking. Later that night, Aunt Tiara and I were talking, and I felt so safe, almost like Mom was there. But then she got very serious. She asked me quietly, looking straight into my eyes, if Dean was touching me. My heart hammered so hard against my ribs, I thought she must hear it. I couldn't breathe. That heavy question, that one piece of truth, it almost made me run to my bedroom door and lock it again. My fear was stronger than my need to talk. I knew I couldn't tell her the truth with Dean in the house. I quickly pushed the answer out, talking too fast. "No, he's not touching me. He's not doing anything," I said, repeating myself to make it sound real. Aunt Tiara noticed how jumpy I was, but I didn't care. I lied that I thought someone was at the door, but it was nothing. I just kept repeating, "He isn't touching me," with that stale smell of Dean's cheap cologne still bothering me, even though he wasn't in the room. When she pressed me on why I was so uncomfortable, I used Mom's own words. I told her, like she said, I'm not a child anymore, and I was still getting used to him. I prayed she would believe that simple lie. Aunt Tiara looked like she didn't believe me, but she stopped pressing. She told me I could talk to her, and she touched my hand kindly. Just as I was about to maybe tell her a little truth, her phone rang. I wanted to scream. She had to take the call, and when she hung up, her face looked upset. It was bad news from her boss. It was urgent work, and she had to pick something up and deliver it somewhere far away, and it would take the whole day. My heart sunk. The little protection I had just disappeared. "No, you're going home?" I asked, and the fear was already in my eyes. I was panicking. I asked who was going to look after me, hoping she'd see the terror in my face. I cried out that I couldn't stay with Dean. Auntie Tara looked puzzled, and I knew she was thinking, "But you just said everything was fine." I started begging her again, but I couldn't tell her the real reason why I was so terrified to be left alone to face that man and his stale smell of cheap cologne again. She said she had to handle the work and told me to just call her if I needed anything. I watched her go, and all my hope just walked out the door with her. I just stood there until I heard the front door click shut behind Auntie Tara. I didn't even try to rush to my room this time. I knew it wouldn't matter. It was like Dean was just waiting, counting the seconds. Almost immediately he was there, shouting my name. I took off running to hide, but I heard him yelling after me. He was saying, "You better come back here," and that we had unfinished business. That sounded so cold and scary. I ran as fast as I could and hid, but I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever. The only defense I had left was my own 2 feet. I spent hours hiding, shaking, and listening to him walk around the house. I kept thinking about Mom's words, "Are you a child?" and how she always dismissed my fear. I realized I couldn't wait for her to come back on Monday. I couldn't wait for him to find me. That house was no longer safe. I knew I couldn't stay there one more minute. Sometime in the middle of the night, when everything was finally quiet, I made my decision. I decided to run away. I just had to get out, even if it meant walking into the dark outside. I walked all night. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept moving far away from the house and that locked bedroom door that hadn't saved me. The next morning, I found myself in a really rough place, a neighborhood I'd never seen before. I saw 3 older boys standing around. They saw me and stopped me. One of them asked me right away where I was coming from. I told them I just spent the night out because my mom wasn't around and I'd be going back soon. I was so nervous, my voice was shaking. They looked surprised that I slept outside. I just begged them to let me go, but they wouldn't. They kept asking why I left my house. I hesitated for a long time, but I finally whispered the truth. I left because of my stepfather-to-be. I told them Dean was trying to force himself on me. I thought they would be shocked or maybe even help me. Instead, they just kept asking questions, and then their faces changed. They started looking at me like I was something they had just won, like a prize. I tried to leave again, but they blocked my way. They started talking among themselves, but they weren't speaking low enough. I heard one of them say that I wasn't too small for what they wanted to do. Another one said that I had just fallen from heaven for us. I felt cold all over. Then I heard the words that made me realize my mistake. I would continue from where the stepfather stopped. I had run from Dean's stale smell of cheap cologne and my fragile bedroom door only to walk straight into something much worse. I wasn't safe at all. Meanwhile, Dean was back at the house, panicking. He probably thought I was going to run to the police or something. He called his friend, shouting, asking why his friend hadn't picked up the phone. Dean was terrified. I wasn't there, so his story that I was the good daughter was already falling apart. He was so worried about Mom coming back on Monday and finding the house empty. He had been so sure that by now I'd be quietly hiding behind my locked bedroom door waiting for him. His friend just told Dean that I was probably tired of all the things he was doing to me, and that's why I left. Dean was so mad, he shouted at him and cut the call. He realized he had to fix this himself, and fast. So he did what he always does. He called the police. I knew it wasn't because he cared about me. He was just trying to cover his tracks. He was pretending to be the worried stepfather, demanding they search the streets and find me. He was already planning how to twist the whole story and turn this case against me, making sure he came out looking like the good guy. It wasn't long after all that drama that Mom finally came back from her trip. Dean was waiting for her, ready with his lies. He hugged her, but immediately asked where I was. He acted all ashamed, telling me he didn't know. Then the story came out. He told her I had been rude and out of control since she left. He painted this horrible picture, saying he even found me with 6 men doing bad things. He said I had gone wild. He had completely flipped the story, making me sound like the daughter Mom feared, the one who couldn't handle the weight of expectation to be good. Mom was already shouting, crying, and totally hysterical. She called me a shame. I walked in, so scared and tired, and rushed to hug her, but she stopped me. She started screaming, asking where the hell I was coming from. She believed every word Dean said. She yelled that I was sleeping around with useless boys on the street. And then she said the words I'll never forget. She demanded that I strip right now. She wanted to check if I was still a virgin, right there in front of Dean. I gasped. The shame was so big, I couldn't speak. I could only ask her, "You want me to strip in front of him?" I was begging her with my eyes to see Dean standing right there, his stale smell of cheap cologne suddenly overwhelming me again. But she didn't care. She just shouted at me to look at myself. She said he was her fiancé and my stepfather-to-be.
She couldn't believe I was questioning her decision. When I told her he was not my father, she shouted, "Shut up!" and slapped me so hard I felt dizzy. The weight of expectation for me to respect this man was heavier than my dignity. Just as Mom was screaming at me to strip again, Auntie Tara walked in. Thank God. She saw everything. The anger, the slap, the demand. She was horrified, shouting at Mom. "Have you lost your senses?" she yelled. She kept asking what was wrong with her. Auntie Tara was shouting that I wasn't a baby, that I was a young woman, and Mom had just stripped my dignity in front of a man. Mom didn't care. She asked what was wrong with it, saying she saw nothing wrong. But Auntie Tara was firm. "Morally, it is wrong," she said. Mom didn't like Auntie Tara raising her voice at all. She asked why Auntie Tara was shouting at her. That's when Auntie Tara hit her with the truth about Dean. She told Mom that Dean said I had been missing for 2 days, but Auntie Tara was here just yesterday evening before she left for her work emergency. She asked Mom why Dean was lying against me. Mom wouldn't hear it. She just stood there and said, "If my husband-to-be says she wasn't here, then she wasn't here." She said she trusted him completely, and he never lied to her. I watched Mom choose him over her best friend and over me. Auntie Tara left after that, promising to get Mom arrested if she ever tried to strip me again. She knew Dean was dangerous, but Mom didn't care. That night, Dean didn't even wait for me to get to my bedroom door. He came into the room, and I cried out in pain, telling him my body hurt badly. He just started hitting me, saying he told me not to mess with him. Then Mom walked in. Dean saw her and immediately shouted a new lie. He caught me on the phone having sex with a guy. I was still crying from the pain, but the lie was worse. Mom gasped. Dean's lie was perfect, making the hitting look like a necessary punishment. Mom didn't even look at my bruised face. She just looked at Dean, believing him. She started sobbing, calling me a shame to the family. She said I was acting just like my father, who was useless and left her. She screamed that I was useless and threatened to throw me out of the house if I didn't stop insulting Dean. I tried to tell her the truth, that Dean was an animal, but she just shouted that one phrase at me again. "Are you a child?" She never gave me a chance to explain anything. That whole day was a blur of pain, and every time I looked at Mom, I knew I was truly alone. She wouldn't listen. I spent the rest of the day planning how to get out of the house for good. I knew I couldn't survive another night with Dean and the constant threat of the bedroom door being forced open. Mom had chosen him. So late that night, after I packed a small bag, I ran away. The next morning, Dean was found dead and Mom was arrested. I was already gone, but I knew I'd be blamed because Mom would never, ever believe I was innocent. I don't know who killed Dean that night. Maybe it was one of the boys from the street. Maybe it was Mom, finally waking up. But I was gone. 6 months later, I'm living with Auntie Tara in another state. I'm going to therapy, trying to talk through the nightmares. The fear is less, but the pain is still huge. Mom lost everything, her relationship, her freedom, and my trust. I still hear her voice sometimes, saying, "Are you a child?" I know I'm safe now, but I still don't know how I can ever heal from her betrayal.